What is going on, guys? Welcome to an impromptu episode of Second Guessing with Stressin. I am your host, Garrett Williams, aka Texans Commenter. And the way my schedule was this week, it was kind of touch and go as to, when I could go live. And I've been wanting to do another iteration of the interactive mock draft. So that is what we will be doing today. And I've also been wanting to do a collab with Texans Takeover, aka Andrew, who has helped me and worked with me with a lot of the tools on our my website, houstonstressins.com, with the draft visit tracker, the cap calculator, and what is the other tool we have? And like the free agency
Free agent
tracker, all the
tracker. Yeah.
moves. That's right. So, Andrew, Texans Takeover, how's it going, man?
Going well, man. How are you?
All doing good. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Whatever you'd like to share, background, or if you just want to talk about Texans angle related. Anything you want to share real quick to the people?
So probably like many of y'all, grew up in Houston. I've been a season ticket holder since I was born. So yeah, the franchise was there before I was born. But ever since I was born, been to every single home game that I've been able to go to. So usually like 8 a year now with the schedule change, kind of 9 a year, depending on how the schedule works out. But yeah, huge Texans fan, just love talking ball. And that's why I started a YouTube channel based on the Texans, just so I could talk ball, talk with and interact with other people, respond to their comments. That's everything I try to do. So yeah, that's really all there is to it.
Sound a lot like me, man. While you're at it, just go ahead and share your socials that you would like people to check you out at.
It's just Texans takeover on YouTube, and then on X it's Texans underscore takeover. So same thing, just an underscore there for X. But those are really the only two social medias I use.
Okay, good deal. I think before we get into the draft, since this is just a random time of the day, it's freaking 3 p.m. on a
Yeah.
Wednesday and no notice. I'll kind of let some time for some people to straggle in. And worst case, if we don't have a lot of interaction, it can be you and I kind of doing a collab mock draft. But
Yep, that works.
if y'all are in the comments on Instagram, I'm going to try and keep this window open as much as I can. I'm also at my office today, so I don't have my normal setup. So sometimes you just got to go with the flow and do things.
Exactly.
But until then, I think it'd be good to share some of the tools on the website that Andrew and I have worked on that some of you may or may not be familiar with yet. But these are just ideas that we've both had, to kind of help fans. I know a lot of people probably have been looking for these, but right here, the first one is the cap calculator, which is becoming less as important. Obviously leading up to free agency and during that frenzy, the first week or so was a great tool, but we've been updating the numbers along the way. Obviously, Texans Cap, all of you guys know him with Over the Cap. We try to collaborate with his projections, but obviously he likes to wait until all the details are out. So, we base it off that or also off reports that we see from contracts and kind of use our best guess at times too. But currently, right now, we see the cap space at 15.16 million. So there is room left, in my opinion, to make more moves. I think there's still holes to fill going into the draft. Typically, around this time, leading up to the draft or after, you'll definitely see some back end, lower end free agency moves that can fill veteran special team spots. So not necessarily any big splash signings. But another thing too, I've been kind of realizing as we approach the draft. First off, in my opinion, I've been iterating this, and Andrew, I don't know if you agree or not, but I think Nick Caserio has done a tremendous job this offseason and the previous years leading up to this point as far as building a complete roster at great value. So going into the draft this year, as we've gone through and checked off all the different needs through free agency as the previous weeks have passed, going into the draft, I know we have some needs, but there's really not like major
There's
glaring
not a
needs.
big one.
Yeah, and so if that's the case now you can truly approach the draft with the BPA or best player available
Yep.
approach, and you can also go into the draft where you just play the board and get good value, and you're not, let's just say, one position I think that we would still need is that third defensive end because we like to rotate a lot. And if someone falls because of age or testing and they're still a good player, you draft them, but you don't now go and reach for one to fill that hole. And the
Mhm.
mindset too is you let it play, and if it if the whole draft goes by and there's no value on any defensive end, then you still after the fact can go to free agency and hit that market up. Like I've been, throwing the question out there, like, what about Jadeveon Clowney? I mean, he's someone who typically signs late. If you go through the draft, you don't really find an edge rusher you like or with good value, you could still pick from somebody like him, Derek Barnett.
Yep.
They've been talking to. Maybe his price comes down. Dante Fowler Jr. is another name. So uh,
Wasn't he asking for like a crazy number?
Derek Barnett.
Yeah, that's the rumors I heard is that his number was insanely high.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I believe Aaron Wilson kind of maybe said vaguely, like, they're just not the same level, which you would understand. Like, I mean, and that's kind of what happens with D'Amico Ryans in this defense. You get guys that are kind of like looked over, they come in here, ball out, and they go get paid. I mean, you look at Tim Settle Jr. this year. I think he got paid of what, almost $9 million. Like, we couldn't
Yep.
afford that. Love the player, love the guy. Would have loved to have him back, but we can't justify paying that when we had him like at almost 3 million APY the 2 years prior. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I mean, same with defensive tackle. Like, I want them to pick one, but if it doesn't fall out the way they like, they could still hit up the free agency market. I'm sorry, go ahead and get your point.
I was gonna ask, do you think like a Naquan Jones could be some type of Tim Settle like, or even like a Togiai kind of like guy that kind of just comes in, does his role well, and gets paid a lot of money?
Potentially so. I am high on Naquan Jones. So, I've been like very keen to that whole value bargain shopping at defensive tackle. Obviously Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, two the best edge duo in the league. That alone can make the job easier for the
Yeah.
inside guys. But you also the fact of like the way the system and the scheme is, it's an attack scheme where they're not looking to read blocks and play multiple gaps. It's literally line up at three tech and just go upfield and cause
Mhm.
havoc. And so with that, a lot of guys are used to playing differently. Then they come here and it's almost like, wait, you just want me to like run as hard as I can, straight forward, like every play. But it kind of takes, I guess there's more to it than that, like technique. But you hear it time and time again that like sometimes some of these guys, it takes a couple weeks to click, and then once it clicks, like they all of a sudden look like world beaters, and that's what you
Yep.
saw with Naquan Jones. I mean, I don't know what you observed, but me watching the all 22 and just the games in general didn't look that impressive the first week or two, but then the last
Playoffs
three,
rolled
four
around.
games, playoffs, he was making big plays, right? I mean,
Yeah.
TFLs and so yeah, I mean, he could be. I think, yeah, at the worst, he's a good rotational piece, but I do think you need to look at adding one. Obviously, they signed Logan Hall. I still think personally myself that he'll be that Danico Autry role, but that could
I do
change
too,
based
yeah.
off who you draft. But regardless, he'll give you some rushing out of three tech. But anyways, that's just a long roundabout way to talk about the cap here. So I do think, I think that another place, and again, all these quote unquote needs aren't really dire needs, and they're all pretty equal as far as urgency. But I know this has become like a contentious thing on Texans Twitter, but I've been saying this for like months. Like, I wouldn't mind signing a veteran slot receiver. Again, it all
I'm
comes
in that
down to
boot too.
price. You are? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but for me though, like my logic is the past 2 years, there's been reports and they've done exactly this, and they've specifically targeted veteran slot receivers, not just any receiver. They targeted in 2024, they targeted Keenan Allen. They actually had a trade for him with the Chargers. And I believe they offered a fourth round pick or a third, but then the Bears offered a fourth or a fifth with one round lower. But they took the Bears offer to keep him out of the AFC. So they tried to get Keenan Allen, later pivoted to Stephon Diggs, which, by the way, this is just a reminder too, the whole timeline, like we assume everything's done and dead. That was like in early to mid April, I believe, with the Stephon
Yeah, it
Diggs trade.
was.
Like, and that was something that nobody saw coming. It was out of the blue, right? I mean, there really wasn't a lot of talk about that. So that's just a reminder of like, you had the early influx of like crazy activity with free agency in the first couple days. Anything could happen at any time. But to me, two guys fit that mold. And again, last year they went and got Christian Kirk, veteran slot receiver, which to me was kind of disappointing. And I don't think he was a great scheme fit, honestly. Um,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
but so the two that I would want would be Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs. And obviously Keenan Allen, he was last year signed a 1 year deal for 3 million. Obviously, he had a very productive year, so you might be go for a little bit more. I'd pay up to 6
Mhm.
million for that. Stephon Diggs, obviously, you got the legal stuff, so this is under the assumption that the legal stuff gets cleared up. And then maybe you now get value on him because maybe teams are sour. If you can go around 10 million APY, I would be game for that. To me, he was very productive in that role the year prior. Do you want to add anything just to that slot receiver veteran topic?
I completely agree, to be honest. I think Keenan Allen's my favorite out of like the names I've heard so far. I think that Stephon Diggs could definitely do a role, and I think it is something to say that uh, he didn't have any troubles when he was in Houston. So maybe, D'Amico really got to him or something like that. So he might be more welcome to a reunion knowing that nothing really came out while he was here. So I think if you're able to get him, because I think the way that Casario approaches that slot receiver position is we're going to get a veteran to be a security blanket for Stroud. So there's less pressure on him. Uh, Obviously, I think Jalen Noel's a great playmaker, and I would be excited to see him there. But I think if you're able to get someone like a Stephon Diggs to kind of just alleviate pressure off the shoulders of CJ, where he has both Dalton Schultz and potentially like a Diggs or a Keenan Allen to just dump the ball off to and know that they have secure enough hands to make that catch, then I think that's something Casario would definitely approach.
Love that analysis. Mine's the exact same. I mean, that's exactly what it is, security blanket. And Christian Kirk was not that. Like, I thought, oh, okay, great. We got a savvy veteran receiver that Stroud can just rely on getting open. But like, I actually did a film breakdown with Johnny Dells from, he's a Niners film analyst. It's on my page and his as well. But I kind of had already known this, but really kind of had an epiphany. Like, yeah, like Kirk is good, but he is a vertical threat slot receiver. He's not your typical slot receiver,
Yeah.
the underneath chain mover, the non-sexy, just get you 5 yards consistently security blanket. And so, these moves may not be considered splash signings like, oh, this guy didn't have that many yards. It's not about the yards. It's about, and we saw this too in this EP offense. They talked about the slot receiver being, they even called it an adjuster role where, obviously every NFL offense is pretty complex and you have freedom and flexibility, but from my understanding in this EP offense, which the Patriots often ran, the slot receiver had a lot of freedom to adjust their routes based off of the leverage of the defensive back or the coverage. But the thing with that is the receiver has to see it through the same set of eyes as the quarterback. And
Yeah.
when you don't, if the quarterback sees it one way and the receiver sees it another way, and you throw it anyways, everyone in the stands is like, "Oh my god, what a terrible throw!" Like so, and it can be catastrophic. It can lead to pick sixes. I'm not like using that as an excuse to any potential bad play from Stroud, but I'm saying that it takes a veteran receiver from that aspect alone. And again, when you think about the Patriots teams, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, like they had savvy, tough slot receivers, and those guys aren't the fastest or necessarily the quickest. They just one, they know how to win, and two, they're obviously they're smart. Two, they're smart. Number three is they're tough. Like these guys are bigger body, tough, can make the contested catches, and they make it over and over to where normally another guy who's a little more frail may not be able to do it. And so someone asked Andrew on Facebook, is Noel good? I think he's good. I think he's great. So I think two things can be true. Like the tough thing about this topic is like you can start making these points like Andrew and myself are making, but then a lot of people conflate that with, well, you think Noel sucks. No, I don't. I think he's awesome. I wanted him to play more last year too. But part of it is I don't know what they think of him. Like so it's if they don't think he's ready, then go get a veteran slot. If they do, or so if they don't get a veteran slot, then that tells me that they do think he's ready. And obviously, just because they signed Kirk last year, if Noel was the guy that they wanted him to, whatever he will be, if he was that guy already, he would have played. They wouldn't not play him just because they signed Christian Kirk. So you don't know why he didn't get as many snaps. Like, did he not know the mental side of it? Was he not a good blocker? Like, what was it? I mean, because we saw like the backyard football plays that he made, against Seattle and other games. So, whichever way they do it, but and people want to say like also like, oh, if you get a veteran slot, that's going to impede his progress. Like, no, to me, that's going to improve his progress. You get a
Exactly. Yeah.
second year slot receiver. You get Keenan Allen, a savant at the slot receiver, teaching you how to run these routes. And guess what? If you learn enough and Jalen Noel, you emerge, then beat him out. Then y'all can split reps or you can bench him or trade him, whatever. So that would be the approach that I would take.
Yeah, I think so too. I think on a similar note with talking about the veteran receivers, I think last year, I think Jaden Higgins is a great player, but sometimes you could see he went flat when CJ was trying to lead him upfield, or even on post routes, he'd kind of make it into a dig instead of a post, and CJ would throw it long. And, when I'm at the stadium, I'm thinking, what's Stroud doing? And then you turn on the film, and then you realize, oh, Higgins had the opening across the middle of the field or towards the sideline where CJ actually put that ball, but just because of the experience he's running, what he sees on the playbook, not exactly what's ongoing on the field. So I think having someone like Diggs would be able to teach someone like a Higgins a Knoll. And I think Nico Collins is probably going to teach Higgins more just because of their physiques and how they run routes. But uh, I think Jalen Knoll's a great player. I think he's an exciting playmaker, but I think at the same time, with those exciting playmakers, you want that element of surprise. So if you get that security with Diggs and then you have that element with surprise with Jalen Knoll, then I think it would be great to just, have that mix and match there.
That's a great point. And then, like, yeah, if you talk about veteran too, like Nico right now is like our eldest receiver besides what Justin Watson.
Yep.
And Nico himself, in my opinion, also in this new offense was also struggling with the new side adjustments because it was a new offense for him too. And so, I mean, he would now be the oldest. Like, it wouldn't hurt to bring in a veteran. And I even threw around like an alternative option. Like, okay, if they want to like clear away for Noel to be the guy with no competition, you could sign like a Hunter Renfro to, be potentially your seventh receiver or even just, you
Literally
know,
take us through training camp.
yeah, just someone to kind of help learn the offense. He was in Vegas with Josh McDaniels, similar to what Kaylee's doing. So we're talking about all this because we're talking about the cap. So real quick, just this tool here that Andrew has done a lot of work on. So shout out Andrew. If you go on here, I mean, you can go through managing players still. Like I still think an Aziz Alshire extension should and hopefully does happen. Obviously, Will Anderson Jr. extension will happen. Nico Collins is a question of, if you want to create more cap, you could restructure. I think you should extend him. I know extending everybody is like fantasy land, but, I'm just going to do it here in this situation. And these are different variables. If you do this or that, it can be up to this much in savings. But just by doing that alone, you're now at 41 million. Obviously, now you can go sign a Keenan Allen. And this does not include like roughly a $4 to $5 million draft hold, so you'll need that amount of money on hand to pay your for salary cap for this year for draft. But it's also on the website at the top. Free agency tracker is a move too. If you want to kind of go and see, okay, yeah, I forgot we signed Wyatt Teller on this date for this much. If you want to check the details, all the moves, whether it's adding players, restructures, etc. And then also on there is like the current roster outlook. So this can kind of give you an idea going into the draft. Okay, hey, here's our positions of need, and here's the depth chart projected to be, all that good stuff. And then the last thing will be this is probably the new tool that'll probably be the most used to Texans fans currently is our draft prospect tracker. So right now, these are all things that we've seen from various reporters. You can see at the top, we try to credit everyone that we can, but we have 64 total prospects. I guarantee there's way more. But
It's probably like 120.
you think so?
Yeah, it's probably double, but can only go with what gets reported. So
That's true. And then what I've learned too, so like I played football at Incarnate Word back in the day, and I'm involved with the program. And my good friend is the head coach, and they have a receiver coming out who I think is a fifth round talent who may go seventh round or undrafted,
talking
Jalen
about Mr. Walt.
Waltall.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just texting him, and he's like, I was like, hey, like, give me your number so I can help, promote your stuff. And I was like, oh, by the way, did you meet with him? I was like, yeah, I pretty much met with like this many teams, and it's like, and then you just kind of like, I just realized like, this isn't me like saying anything bad at him at all. I think he's awesome, but like, I just realized like, a lot of these players too, like, yeah, I've pretty much met with every team. So I mean, in some form or fashion, and these teams, I mean, that's their job. They want to leave no stone unturned. So in
Yep.
some capacity, um, but our hope is me and Andrew here in the next coming weeks to try to go back and do some revisionist history and to kind of look at some trends and under Casario, under D'Amico, and try to find ways to see if we can find any kind of predictors like, okay, if this guy had a 30 visit, if this guy had if he's a power five, if he's a captain, et cetera, find different variables to see if we can find any ways to, because we all like to try and predict, what's going to go on. So, but yeah, is there anything else you want to add to that, Andrew?
I think on that same exact topic, the way that you do it is you go through previous draft classes. So like the year before last, we went with Jalen Smith. We can see if he was a captain at USC, and then obviously other prospects like Higgins, Noel, all of them. See what they accomplished in college to see if there's a trend. So, someone that we met with formerly at the combine, Jimmy Roller, he got all Big Ten honors. He wasn't a captain, but he was in that all Big Ten. So there might be a correlation between guys that get all conference. There might be correlation between guys that come from winning programs, either SEC, Big Ten, those Power Four programs, or just guys that win. Someone we met with had a virtual meeting with this Tyler Montgomery from John Carroll, who's D3, but then again, he was uberly productive. So I think there's a lot of ways to find that correlation, and it could come through their production in college. It could come through their accolades. It's really just yet to be determined. So I think it's going to be something fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, it's gonna be for fun, like, we're not gonna end of the day, there could be no rhyme or reason, but there's gotta be some, you
Oh,
know,
100%.
parameters that can at least steer in the right direction. So shout out Brandon, he says, "Caden Proctor getting a lot of attention." Rich Boy J says, "How do you feel about us getting Diggs again, LOL?" Yeah, so if you missed it, I mean, I'm all on board again, obviously, assuming legal is cleared, which I've learned a lot too, like, being an NFL fan, you don't judge people based on cases, based off reports, especially celebrities. Oftentimes it feels like, and I'm not saying I know or don't know, what happened with Diggs, but like Jimmy Ward, for example, was a prime case. Everyone assumed that he was guilty and did this and that, and he was acquitted. Like it was all false. So that could be the case with Diggs. And then, like Andrew said, if character concerns are an issue, he was totally fine here. I mean, he was totally fine here. So, and if that is the case too, if you can get him cheaper and sign him to a 1 year deal and give yourself flexibility to get out of it, not a big of a deal. So, but yeah, I think we'll go ahead and start getting into the draft here. Um, Andrew, you got any recommendations as far as the settings here on PFF?
Sometimes I do care for positional value, like one tick up.
Okay.
Just because I feel like some teams are very BPA at their biggest needs. So I think, yeah, that's usually what I go with, but that's really it.
Okay, care for positional value, but draft for needs you think is pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll be the Texans. And yeah, as far as positional value too, that is something obviously that's like the whole debate with Jeremiah Love if you want to draft him in top 5 and have to pay him more where you could, get somebody else. But I think as far as the Texans go, which I don't know if this is considered positional value or not, but like at pick 28, I was going through this mental exercise recently. I was like, hey, if Akeem Mesidor falls to 28, who, in my opinion, is probably a top 15 player, but if you take away age, but if he falls, 13, 15 spots simply because of age, do you consider taking him for multiple reasons? One, Casario at the combine already said, we don't care about age. And everyone's like, well, what about the second contract? Well, even then, like, yeah, you're on your 30s and you're still productive for a 2 or 3 year deal. We don't go and sign a bunch of 5 year
Yeah.
deals. Um, and so, but the other thing too is you're now getting a prime position. Defensive end is probably what the second or third highest paid APY. Um,
Yeah.
and so you're now getting that guy at pick 28, like 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million is like the 4 years you get them for the cost control amount. Whereas if you were to go and sign a Jadeveon Clowney, a Derek Barnett, you're going to pay him potentially 8 million APY for 2, 3 years off the bat. And then this guy's 24, 25. He's ready to play right. He's almost like a veteran.
Yep.
Um, and you get the 5th year option. That's another element too. So, um, anyhow, anything you wanted to add to that?
I think it really just comes down to teams that like the Texans are in a position to just go win now. Um, I think that's when you really consider an Akeem Mesidor. So, like someone that needs an edge, like 17 to the Lions, who have the roster to go win, I think could look at an Akeem Mesidor because you're looking for a rookie that could come in and give you instant production. So, I like the idea of like a Basantis down the board in the second round because he's young, but you have that development behind a Wyatt Teller, so you extend your window. I think teams that are looking to win now are going to go with someone like a Akeem Mesidor who's a bit older um, to try to capitalize on their window right now.
That's a great point. And yeah, just on him too. I mean, you're basically getting a guy that would start for most teams as your rotational edge. But again, as we talked about earlier, Yeah, okay, well then, but why would you waste a pick on a guy who's not going to start? We also rotate our edges a ton, so he's like a one
Mhm.
B. But yeah, without further ado, we'll get started, and let's see here. Let me know. Do you think we should kind of pause along the way a little bit, or
Um, who are your favorite prospects to trade up for, if there were any?
a good question. So this has kind of changed a little bit with the moves we made in free agency, but there's only a handful that I would consider, and they would have to slide, to a certain place. And obviously, Vega would obviously, I'm sure that's for everybody. If he starts to get past 10, and you can trade up to 15, 16, 17, which sounds like a fantasy in its own right, I would do that. And honestly, I don't know. I guess it depends on the trade charts, but it seems like if we wanted to trade from 28 from anywhere to 15 to 20, it seems like you could do it with mostly a second and adding a third or fourth. Am I wrong on that? Or,
I think so.
and kind of, I mean, we all don't know, but like kind of based on some of I haven't dove in too deep as far as the capital, but yeah, so Vega would be a guy. So maybe I should turn the speed down here, right? So we don't, um, am I able to change the speed right here, right now, somewhere?
It should be at the top.
Okay, let me scroll back. All right,
Yeah, it's
settings,
the left, top left.
exit full screen. Okay, messing with me right now. All right. Oh, we'll just start over.
Oh,
That's all good. We didn't do anything. All right. So we
that is
wanted
true.
to positional value up a tick, right? And then speed. What do you like? What do you prefer for speed?
I do that right there.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're back at it. Um, yeah, so I think, and just to finish your question, Vega, Kenyon Sadiq, I would still consider it if he's like early 20s, if he's like 20 to 23,
Yeah, I think
potentially.
my favorite spot is if he would fall to the Steelers, trade up there.
Okay, why the Steelers?
So my thinking with the Steelers is if they feel comfortable with maybe getting Ty Simpson in the first round, they can move back to 28, still get a quarterback with the fifth-year option that could come in and start for them.
That's some pretty solid logic there. That's awesome. And so that could be for not only Sadiq, that could be for a number of guys that we might
Yeah.
value, that we think we might get sniped for 6, 7 picks.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where I haven't really dove in lately, is like the board around us. I'll probably start to zero in on that as far as like you just, that example there, their needs and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I think those would be the two. I'm trying to think if there's any other guys. I guess we can kind of see as we go, but yeah, I'll go ahead and start it, and I'll kind of like, at least for the first couple rounds, call out names as they go, and then as we go on, not call it every single name, but obviously Mendoza number one, which I believe the dialogue recently from Orlowski is just ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
Mendoza is a stud, dude. I mean, come on.
No
Um,
coincidence that him and Ty Simpson have the same agent.
yeah, yeah, it makes you wonder, huh? So number two, you got Ruben Bain going to the Jets after Mendoza to the Raiders, obviously. Arvell Reese to the Cardinals. And then you got, this is faster than I thought it would be. Um, and you got Sonny Styles, number four to the Titans. And then I've been listening to Tom McShay. He's talking about the Titans taking Jeremiah Love. That makes no sense to me, bro.
I have a
um,
feeling they actually are going to though.
really?
Yeah, I have like with the way they approach free agency, they didn't really address their running back position. So I have a feeling they're going to look to someone like him.
Do they still have Pollard and Spears?
They do.
I mean, so Pollard was a guy that I was looking at potentially for the Texans because he was contract wise a potential cut candidate or trade candidate. So I
Yep.
mean, they technically still could do that. But I think I don't think obviously he's not Jeremiah Love. But I think he's underrated. I think Tajay Spears
I
is
think he's a good
underrated.
player.
Who
Yeah.
who last year Spears was hurt most of the year, right?
I believe. Yeah, he got back in like week 7 or something like that. It was the week after we played them. I think is when he got back.
But I feel like
With
the Titans would have too many other needs before running back, which they have
probably
running
yeah.
back as their tight. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but his thing was, Brian Dayball got his two guys last year. He's gonna be pounding the table, but like if you're Robert Sala, he's probably trying to build a defense.
Hmm.
But we'll see. Interesting, but But yeah, so I also think the positional value argument for Jeremiah Love is being overblown. So in this mock number 5, the Giants take Jeremiah Love, which to me he's probably the best player in the draft if you just take away all the external factors. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but like I think he should be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I'd say him or Styles are probably my favorite.
Gotcha. All right, so then number 6, Carnell Tate to the Browns. And let it go a couple here. Okay, we got a couple more. That was fast. Um, so we had number 7, David Bailey to the Commanders. Number 8, Mansour Delane to the Saints. That would be cool. Francis Mayoga. How do you say his last name again?
Maui Noah.
Maui Noah.
I,
Maui Noah to the Chiefs. Go
I
ahead.
don't know why it sounds like there's an N in his name when it's like Maui Goa, but
That's a good question. Caleb Downs at number 10 to the Bengals. And then we got Spencer Fano, number 11 to the Dolphins, and now the Cowboys are up. At this point, do you want to make a trade for anybody?
not really. I'm not seeing anyone. What about you?
Okay. No, I do not. But I also think too that we are set up to where, like, I hate to say this, like the way the team is now, like pretty much any scenario to me makes sense. Trading up makes sense, or could make sense. Trading
I
back could
agree.
make sense. Standing pat could make sense. Like I feel like we can do whatever, you know.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So let's resume. See who the Cowboys get. They get Dylan Thieneman, stud safety out of Oregon. Rams got CJ Allen, linebacker Georgia. Mekhi Lemon, who the Texans had a meeting with, right? Which was kind of
They
surprising.
did, yeah.
So maybe what if the Texans took a receiver? Number 14 to the Ravens. We got Kenyon Sadiq. So he's gone. All right, now we're getting to some territory here. I haven't seen old boy taking yet. So let's see.
Talking about Vega?
Yeah, I haven't seen Vega. So Kenyon Sadiq was a guy we might trade up for. He's gone to the Bucks at 15. Akeem Mesidor is a guy who I would definitely take at 28. I even might consider trading up if he gets down to like early to mid 20s, honestly.
Yep.
Jordan Tyson went 17 to the Lions. Keldrick Falk went number 18 to the Vikings. Are there any names that you're bummed that got taken or?
I really like Kendrick Falk, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think the Texans would go with him. Maybe if he falls to 28, then there could be an opportunity there, just because he's so young. And I think, um, similar to like a Chase Basantis or someone to learn behind a Wyatt Teller, if he learns behind a Daniil Hunter, you can't teach his size. He's like 6'6", 285. So I think that would be a fun one. But um, other than that, not really.
Gotcha. Shout out Nomad Scott. He has a big board. I'll input it next time. This was impromptu, but we'll do one next time. Space Age, I've come to the realization that McDonald won't be there at 28, and I still think the Texans will ace this draft. Rishi says Giants picking Jordan Love over Caleb Downs is such a Giants move. He also says Giants picking Love over same thing twice. Space Age, same with Titans, Lover Styles. And so I will say too, let's see what we were just talking about. So I typically am like a overly analytical mind, and last year I was like pretty hard on it. And I think you can still think that way, but I've learned Nick Cassera does not think that way as far as, when I looked at the receiver room specifically, I think it's like the way I would build one is like rigid. It's like, okay, X is your 6'4", 225-pound, find a guy who runs a 4.4, Nico Collins. That's your X. And
Yeah.
then for me, it's like Z is, or then I'll just go to, and then next would be slot, which is your smaller, quicker, shiftier underneath guy. And then Z would be a mix of the two. He's outside who can also play slot 30% of the time, but he's more of like a 6'1", 190, 200 guy who's a route technician. So like that's so that's kind of the way I think.
Mhm.
And then so I crossed out Jaden Higgins last year. Like, why would you do that? I mean, draft Jaden Higgins. So he's shown that he will do, what's not your normal deal. But I say that to say I'm starting to like think this a little bit again based off of them on the defensive line and this wide nine spacing defensive line, scheme for D'Amico Ryans. we really don't utilize like so last year I was like, we need a one tech, a run stopper. Like we had Foley, he sucked. We don't really have a big run stopper. So I was looking at guys to draft in the early rounds and we didn't. And I was like, why didn't we do that? And then we just re-signed Foley, and then Foley played 3, 4 games, and we basically had no one tech or no nose tackle. And like I realized like that's this scheme. Like we
Yep.
literally just run 3 techs. So when we click on Kedrick Fault here, like if you want to like know that, you can go and see their name. It'll tell you their snaps by alignment: A gap, B gap. A gap would be a one tech. That'll either be right up over the center or at a 0 or a 1 or even a 2I. But then B gap would be basically roughly your 3 tech. And so, to me, it's like if I see guys like Caden McDonald, I know they met with him. I believe they have a top 30 visit, correct? Playing with
They
him.
do, yes.
And so, like, that seems kind of confusing, but like, I don't know that it fits, but like, I guess when we get to him, we can look at it. But, so I am kind of like, I'm trying not to be over analytical on that, but like, they haven't shown like, and to me, it wouldn't make sense to invest. You can look at like the alignment, but you can also look at the size. If it's like a guy that's like 330, like, okay, that's like a nose tackle. Um, but maybe it's a guy who might have lined up more over the A gap on his team because he was the biggest guy in that team. He could still be a 3 tech.
Is
So you
Dominic
can't.
Orange right there?
Dominic Orange is he's what?
He was a one tech at Iowa State, but that's just because he was the biggest guy and they run a 3-4. So I think he fits more in a 4-3, but it was just because of his scheme in college that he was on a one tech.
So that's something too where I got to be wary of not just looking at alignment snaps where scheme, like you said, is another context too. If you're in a 3-4, obviously that's going to change where you align as opposed to a 4-3. But yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. I was looking it up. Like we ran like 60. If you go on PFF and you like go to the Texans defense, you can like look at all the players with their alignment snaps. We had like 62 total snaps from all of our players all year lined up in the A gap. And so we can, counteract that by having guys lined up at 3 tech and then, slanting inside at the snap. So they may align over the B gap, but once the ball is snapped, they're in the A gap relatively
Yep.
quickly. And Tommy Togiai is a beast at that, like jumping over like that.
Mhm.
Um, so anyhow, there's nuance there, but a lot to look into on that. But let's proceed here. Number 19. Okay, so Vega's still in the.
Shouldn't have clicked
Ah.
it.
Would you have traded right there?
Uh, it probably would have been like 59 to move up, so I don't think so. But
That's pretty funny though. Like I was just getting the words out and he got taken. That's hilarious. Chat, would y'all have traded up for Vega there? Let's see. Brian says I really like Hunter and McDonald. The DT from Florida is okay. Banks, I think I like the other two more. Lee Hunter says Brian. Shout out Sammy. This is smelling like Nick is going to try out the first, especially if Tyson is still on the board. Yeah, and so that's the other point too of trading out. The 5th-year option. If somebody wants to get a quarterback, the highest paid position in the NFL, it helps to get them in the late first as opposed to the early second, which was the case last year with us with the Browns, or who was it we traded with
the
last year? That
Giants.
the Giants, and they end up getting Jackson Dart, correct? And then now they got that 5th-year option on him. So that's another factor there.
I've heard
Um,
Peter Woods' name a lot from the chat, and that's surprising. I really like him. You're muted.
died. I am muted. I'm not muted. My AirPod died. I had to switch.
Oh,
I agree. Peter Woods, dude. I think that's a great fit stylistically. And the guy can provide some goal line relief on offense too, evidently.
oh, really?
Yeah, he's scored a couple touchdowns, rushing. I don't know if he's caught one too or not. So he can take Tommy Togiai's spot there.
No more false
Um,
starts.
yeah, no more false starts. All right, so we spent a lot of time not even drafting. I've probably got 20 to 25 minutes left before I have to go. So, do you want to trade up? You want to keep rolling?
I think we just keep rolling. I don't see anything yet.
Avion Terrell to the Cowboys, Monroe Freeling to the
Freeling,
Steelers.
that's kind of late for him.
Yeah, he's a stud, dude. Jermod McCoy to the Chargers. TJ Parker is a potential too. Like if edge, like if TJ Parker, Cassius Howe, or Akeem Mesidor there at 28, you consider taking them.
I believe so.
Um,
Yep.
and so we had Cassius Howe to the Browns, and we got Emmanuel McNeil Warren to the Bears at 25. Standing pat still.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and then we got on the Bills, we got Blake Miller. I know you like Blake Miller, right?
I do love Blake Miller.
What do you love about him? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what'd you say?
I said, what do you love about Blake?
Oh, just the like flexibility he offers. I think he's going to be like, similar to a Titus Howard in the NFL. I think he can play guard. I think he can play right tackle. I think he has like I know some teams look at arm length for tackles to determine if they're able to play tackle or guard. His arms are like 34 and a half, which is left tackle length. So I think he might even be able to step in there.
Really
Yep.
interesting. Yeah, so it's like Braden Smith, white as Howard. Somebody on my post a while ago said that was hilarious, but yeah, that's something too on O line. Like, love it or not, like they value versatility. So,
They do.
shout out, Larry, what's good, brother? We got Marion Master. Thoughts on Christian Miller? Seems like a great run defender and has room to grow as a pass rusher. I think he's pretty solid. I mean, I honestly haven't dove too deep into him myself personally, but Andrew, you got any specific thoughts about Christian Miller?
Basically what he said. He's a really good run defender. I think he needs to develop his technique in the pass rush to be there, but I think he has the like overall athleticism to be good as a pass rusher. I think it's more of using his hands to his advantage. But he's strong, he's quick, um, but he uses that more in the run game than the pass game.
All right, good analysis there. And so too, like last year, I selfishly liked my train of thinking of like, we don't need this, we don't need that. Like I was able to narrow down like what to look at. And so I kind of was doing that a little bit. I mean, obviously tackle's been a position that we've been needing to fill the whole time. But there's certain positions like corner, like corner three, and like, I don't need to dive into corners. But now it's like, well, shit, like now that all these holes are filled, like I got to look at
Yep.
every position. But we got time. All right, so Niners at 27. They took Omar Cooper Jr., who I think is underrated and a stud. All right, so we're up, fellas. Chat. This will be interactive. Um, we got Caden Proctor. He's been a hot, commodity being projected to the Texans. Caden McDonald was just talked about. Maxi Honekor. Obviously, we know him, the tackle at Arizona State. Developmental. He's raw, but got all the tools. Do you want to get a receiver in Denzel Boston? I would say no. Caleb Banks, my thoughts real quick on Caleb Banks. He's a stud. He's risky though. I've been high on him early on. I had a chance to interview him at the Senior Bowl. I am starting to get somewhat concerned about the swarm work ethic, character. I don't know about character. It's hard for me to judge someone's character without knowing them, but you do hear reports from various podcasts or myself has about work ethic, but he just had the foot injury, but he ran with it still. But I mean, he is a unique size. He is somebody too. I listened to an interview with him where it was Rand Carthon, I believe is how you say his name, former Titans GM with CBS Sports. And he asked him, and he was a defensive lineman, would you prefer to be a two gapper, which would be more of the nose, or a one gapper? Uh, and he said, I would prefer to be a one gapper and get after the quarterback. So that would mean he would like to be a three tech in D'Amico's offense where he would just go. So, like, that to me says, okay, he could fit in that role. Because you can look at his splits here. He's over the B gap and over tackle mostly, but some of the A gap as well. But do you have any of those guys so far? And I'll go down the list a little further. Andrew, any thoughts on any of that so far?
Um, I think my personal favorite here would just be if you're looking for a seamless transition, Peter Woods, just because he was a three tech in college. Uh, Obviously Caleb Banks was too, but I think there's opportunity to get Caleb Banks at like maybe even 59 with the injury history. Teams starting to be a little concerned with that. Similar to like what happened with N'Kobe Dean, who went really late in the draft because of just not being able to um, provide a good medical. So I think that's going to be a similar case with Caleb Banks. Probably not that extreme, um, but I like or Caden Proctor. Sorry, I think that as we keep talking about on the offensive line positional versatility, um, he might slot in at guard his first couple seasons, and then maybe when you're out of contract with the likes of a Braden Smith after 2 years, he could slot over at right tackle, and I think be pretty productive there. Um, but my personal opinion, I think the Texans are gonna trade out of the first round. I think Peter Woods might fall to the likes of, like, 34 or something like that, and the Cardinals might try to move up for a Ty Simpson, so that's where I've been angling a lot recently.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, and he's still got Peter Woods, Colton Hood. Obviously, we don't that wouldn't be good for us there. I don't think KC Concepcion would be a smart pick for us there. Emmanuel Pregnon's an option who's further back. Christian Miller, we talked about, Caleb Lomu, Lee Hunter. I mean, look at these guys that we could potentially get with a trade back, and you're like, damn, Zion
Yeah,
Young. I mean, edge rusher. I mean, um,
it's not a
yeah.
top-heavy
So
class, it's a deep class.
yeah, and then every year and if you're not like in the top 10, you might as well be towards the back end and trade out, honestly.
Exactly.
Because every year, D'Amico and Casario, they talk about rounds 2 through like 3.5. They call that the sweet spot of the draft. And
Mhm.
they just try and, squeeze everything into that range. So, uh, okay, fellas in the chat, voice your opinion as loud as you want, but I am voting for a trade back. So would you rather trade back or pick? And then if y'all say pick, then we can decide the player. We'll give it a second. Or I guess if you're opposed, let me know if you're opposed or not opposed to trading back. Let me check Instagram. Not sure if you guys are tapped in. If you're on there, if you want us to trade back, let us know. That's what I'm leaning towards. This might become a dictatorship. What do you call a dictatorship when you got like two dictators? Is there a
A
term for that?
co-dictatorship? I don't even know.
It might be a co-dictatorship. I'm seeing a lot of K McDonald. I don't know, man. Like, I know they met or planning to meet with him. I also don't know too, so that'll be fun for us to dive into with top 30 visits. Like, is there the element of top 30 is you just want to know to get to know that guy more? Could it be their teammate? Could it be a smoke screen? Like, I don't know if that's a thing. Like, if Casario and D'Amico are kind of like send indicators to people like, oh, they're meeting with these kind of defensive tackles. Like, is that what they want? Um, and I guess let's just go real quick to Caden McDonald on his profile here.
I see a lot of people saying McDonald.
And yeah, so last year he had A gap 175 snaps to 249, so that's a lot. But the year before it was 32, A gap 120 or 180 to the B gap. Obviously a very good player. Where's his bio? So he's 6'3", 326. The build to me matches up with the nose tackle. He's 326 pounds. I don't know what you think, Andrew. Do you think he could be a three tech if we were to get him? Would we change our scheme for him?
Um, I think he's gonna be a one tech in the NFL because the year before he was all right, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't gonna be projected in the first round. Matt Patricia then comes in, starts running a new scheme with, one tech um at D tackle, and he was a lot more productive, which is why he's now mocked around and sometimes in the first round. So I think he's gonna just kind of want that seamless transition into the NFL, similar to what I talked about with like a uh Peter Woods with just like getting to a scheme that really suits what he played in college because of how productive he was. And I think his best production came last year. You can even look at the grades there if
It
you
matches
really
up
care about
perfectly.
PFF grades.
Two, yeah, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt, but like 2025, 86.5. Like, okay, like when it's that high, it's good. I mean, like it could be not that good,
Yeah.
quite that good, but it's still good. And he was in the A gap 175 snaps to 249 the B gap. Year before, 2024 and 2023, 68 and then 63 grade. He was rarely in the A gap and mostly in the B gap. I mean, 23, he didn't really play much, but 24. So, I mean, that lines up with what you just said. Let me check the chat real quick. McDonald is better than Settle now, but Settle wasn't a one tech though, and but Settle was a three tech. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, let me see if I can show real quick. Let me go to PFF. I don't think people realize this. Like, and this is something that it took me a little while to realize. And like once it did, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, just think to Robert Sala, who runs the same scheme, right? Who did they
Yep.
trade this offseason? They traded Tavondre Sweat. What is he? He is a nose tackle, right? Well, why did he trade him? Because he doesn't fit his scheme. They don't use a nose tackle, so he went and traded for an edge. Why is this not PFF? For some reason, dude, like PFF doesn't work like certain pages in this browser for me. I have to like change out of the.
Yeah, that happens to me
Uh,
sometimes too.
okay, good to know. I thought it was just me. Um, like when I go to premium stats, right? Is that when it does it? Like it does like a
I think so, yeah.
it does this crap right here. Um, Whatever. But like if you go and look at like the splits for um Tim Settle, like he was a three tech. Like and what are his measurements? Let me see. Tim
Not a big
Settle.
dude.
He's not. He plays bigger than his size, right? He's
Yep,
not 330, I'll tell you that. Let's see what he is. He's 6'3", 313. He's like maybe a slightly oversized three tech, right? I mean, I would imagine most three techs are like 280 to 300 is like the prototype,
I
you
think
know.
so, yeah.
And so he wasn't what a lot of people think, in my opinion. So and he's rotational. And you know who took his spot? Tommy Togiai. Which, by the way, Tommy Togiai is a superstar. Tommy Togiai is a superstar, bro. He is so good. Um, Wiggles meaning you ran out of time picking and lost your pick. Is that how it works? We'll trade back. We're gonna trade back. I'm sorry, chat. Um, I don't have two screens. So did anybody like really say opposed to trading back?
Um, I see most did say pick here. Brendan Holm said pick. Um, Brian Herrera said McDonald. Larry Payton said Maxi Honicher. And then someone did say trade back there. So it's kind of like a equal vote if we're voting here. If our votes
All
count
right.
too.
I'm sorry, guys. So this time we're gonna buck, but next time if it's is a sticking point, we'll tie goes to the chat. So we're gonna trade back. All right. So which one here? I, what do you think would be? So the Bucks. Who wants to trade? Let's see. Where do you trade with the other teams? Chargers or Broncos are interested. That's kind of weird. Um,
That's pretty far back.
yeah. All right. Well, you know what? We'll
They
just
might get
pick.
their way.
We'll just pick then. All right. Where do I go back to draft a player? Nobody wants Caden Proctor, huh?
um, Someone asked if Proctor would be a tackle or a guard.
I just don't like this, dude. Like, I don't want Cade McDonald. Ihanakor I could be down with. I like Cade McDonald. I'm worried about the fit. And then, yeah, receiver we don't need in Boston. Caleb Banks. Chat's probably like, all right, hurry up and pick somebody. I'm gonna trade back. I don't care if it's further back. So we get their 46. Y'all can have our 28th,
Probably
and
pick
we
up
will.
77 and 116 at that too, to be honest.
Ooh, is that crazy? Get 46, 77, 116, 155 for 28. It says 63%.
That's I mean, it's a lot of value from the Buccaneers, but at the same time, you're jumping 18 spots and picking up a fifth year option.
And
Um,
you get 195. Like, is that realistic?
I think the realistic would be like 46, 77, and 116. And then if we give up 167, pick up 155, maybe. Kind of like a late round pick swap, which Casario always seems to do.
That says 88. So do you have much opinion on PFF's trade value stuff? Is it accurate or not? Or
I'd say it's fairly accurate. It's kind of hard because if it's not accurate in the system, then you can't really make the deal happen. But I think that's something that would probably be realistic.
all right, I'll do this right here. Screw it. All right. And so now we need to start trading up. So I'm gonna slow down the speed. Let's see, because now we got some ammo later.
You do.
All right. So Proctor got taken. Concepcion got taken. Boston got taken with the Dolphins.
If Woods doesn't go by 34, then I'm gonna be screaming.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Seahawks. Caleb
There you go,
Banks. All right,
Banks.
cool. Dude, we're chilling, bro. We're chilling. Colton Hood to the Jets. Ty
There goes
Simpson to the
Simpson.
Cardinals. You want to trade up for Peter Woods or what?
If the chat agrees,
Well,
that's
Caden
my
McDonald's still there. We're gonna write it out.
he's still
So
there.
Caden, they shouldn't take Caden. They
They
took
go
Prick.
so oh
Lee
wow, we're gonna
Hunter.
get one of them at 38.
Oh, all right. Caden McDonald or Christian Miller. It sounds like Caden McDonald.
It's gonna be Katie McDonald. I think it
Yeah.
has to be.
Okay. We can't nitpick about scheme now.
That's just too much value to pass up on.
All right. So now our next pick is at 46. Is there anybody that we should be keying in on before we get there?
I
Because
don't.
after that, I think we're good. Man, this is the way to do it, man. You basically pick
It
every
is,
10
yeah.
picks. Good Lord. All right. Well, just let me know if you see someone go off, if you start getting nervous. Bell, Lomu, Miller. Are we going certain position? Or Mason Thomas?
I think it's just best available. That's gonna be our approach this year.
All right. Let's see. Cisse. Oh, that took Jacob Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Dude, I could go
Okay.
for Zion Young here. That might be crazy though.
I agree. So my only thing would be, I don't know. I just know from his loud personality, not loud, like I know, like I think of that coin toss when he had a couple years ago. Wasn't that him in the overtime where he like talked a bunch of crap?
Yeah, it was.
So I don't know, like if that could come off as like, him being a personality concern or not. But if you put that into Swarm, but like I really don't know. That's just like a surface level, so I shouldn't even say that. But he's a stud. I know that.
He could go in the first round, I think.
He's a great talent. Okay, chat. So we'll go with what the chat says for sure. Zion Young, or do y'all want Chase Basantis? I mean, if I want a corner, y'all can get a corner. Maybe too early. Gabe Akis, who I think we should definitely get, is a great fit. If we don't go with Zion Young, we could potentially get him at 59.
I
AJ
think they're similar
Halsey's there.
sizes too. They're both like 6'5", 260.
So Zion Young is,
I think he's
let's
like
see,
6'5",
go to first
262.
look.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're off by 2 pounds, dude. Come on, bro. Gabe Akis is 6'3", 270. So he is more of like your heavy-handed, bigger guy who may be a similar, to my opinion, potential replacement for Daniil Hunter, like your big, heavy-handed edge.
Yeah.
Zion Young, Rodriguez is off the board. Hill Jr. is there. Golday is there. See, I want a linebacker right here. So linebacker,
I love Golday.
we could get Golday with the next pick.
6'4", 240, and really good athlete.
All right, so we'll get Young. All right. So we just solidified our defensive line. Halsey went next. Chris Johnson.
Surprised
If we go,
Basantis hasn't gone.
yeah, Malachi Lawrence. That's been a riser right
I
there.
think he'll go right here, Basantis. Yep.
Called his shot. Let's go. On the show. Darian Price. Skyler Bell. Gabe. Well, we already got our guy anyways. So we're going to get Golday right here, right? And then we got to start thinking about O-line next, which
I think
Keelan Rutledge.
Yeah.
Okay. So chat's kind of already spoken. We'll go with Golday right here. And
3 defensive picks to start out.
People are going to be big mad, bro. And look, again, like, see, this is the play, bro. Like, we're like every 10 picks, so like you really can't get sniped.
Pretty much,
look,
yeah.
Look at our next pick. Jeez. I mean, after 77, we can trade back up from 106 and cash out like our other picks. Man, I love this. This is the meat of the draft, dude. This is the sweet spot.
Especially for this one too, when it's more quantity over quality.
Yep, facts. All right, so it sounds like we're going to let it ride out to our next pick. We're at 69, so we're not too far away. So tell us in the chat some guys you would want next. It sounds like Keelan Rutledge would be my first instinct. It sounds like we need to
That would
go.
be mine as well.
Okay, we definitely need to get offense or people will lose their shit.
I think
Um,
77 would be the center spot, maybe.
Antonio Williams, the guy we have a 30 visit with him or no? He came.
I think we had a formal with him.
But yeah, he's an intriguing prospect. Romello Heights, another edge we could get that could fall because of his age, right? He's an older guy.
Yep.
Um, all right, so I know people. I mean, and if we didn't go defensive tackle earlier, Grayson Halton's a good pick. So there's a lot of avenues we can go. But obviously we got our defensive tackle and edge and linebacker. Running back is a potential place to improve. I'm gonna look at Dominic Orange, like you said. So you said that he was. Let's see what his measurements are. But to me, he is bigger though. He's 6'4",
He's
325.
bigger, but he's very athletic.
But so that's where I'm also too. Like I'm just stereotyping people. Like more often than not, the build correlates to a certain skill set, but it's not always true. Um, so I think we should go Keelan Rutledge. Is the chat bugging out on that or not? Or I'm trying to. I can't. I want to go back to the.
I think
Let's
it's got to be
see.
Rutledge here.
Okay. Uh, we'll go Rutledge. We'll go Rutledge. Let's see here. And then where are we next? We're gonna hold pat. Okay, we're at 77 next. We can get our center next, right?
I think so. Hopefully Connor
Which
Lew
could be
doesn't go.
Connor Lew.
That's my guy.
I think that Pat Coogan's gonna be a steal. Like he's fallen because of age, supposedly.
I think so.
Like
Yeah, that's the
I
main
mean,
reason.
best center on the best team in the nation. Like I mean, Mike Washington just went. All right, so
Max Claire's there. That's hard.
yeah, but let me look at tight end, dude. If Roush is still, bruh, we're
Probably
good.
have to move up for him.
Yep, let's move up for Roush next because we're 77, and so should we even try and predict who would take him, or just kind of figure out a spot to move up to?
I think probably just figure out a spot.
Because if not, I'd be fine with injuries. Marlon Klein, Nate Borkature be a great value. Even Joe Royer, Raridan. And like my thought process on tight ends, like all these guys that I'm mentioning, Oscar Delp is 215. He's not rising on this board.
Yeah, I don't know how.
That's crazy. Anyhow, like the way I'm looking at tight end, which we could get another receiving tight end like Schultz that could be his successor now that we added Moreau from the Saints, but I still want a guy who can block first and hopefully also catch, but at the very least have receiving upside. I want a traditional 6'4", 6'6", 250 tight end, hand in the dirt. I want a real tight end, you know.
Yeah,
That's so those are the guys I thought that kind of fit that mold. But yeah, so we'll probably pick around. We'll pick here, and then we'll probably trade up
like
into
the
like 85 or 84.
yeah.
Okay. So who are we getting right here? We're gonna
I
get
think Lou makes the most sense here.
Connor Lew. All right. In lieu of that, let it roll out here. Anthony Hill Jr. gone. So, all right, we got Gold Day, bro. This draft kind of kicks ass, dude.
It does, yeah.
Zachariah Branch, would you be open to drafting him?
I would if you want fun little playmaker screen game or something.
Well, I posted that video from the speakeasy with TJ Houshmandzadeh, who was saying that, and I agree. Like, once you realize that Stroud's struggling in the cold, whatever it was, he's struggling, shut it. It should have been the game plan from the beginning. Shut it down, run the ball, and throw screens, which is funny because that's what Bobby Slowick got killed for, was throwing too many
Uh-huh.
screens. But then
Yeah.
Kaylee threw no screens. And it could be like if you had a Zachariah Branch, he could be a screen. We don't really have a screen merchant. It feels like maybe Noel's the guy, but we didn't give it to him. But yeah,
I
that's
don't
an
know why
intriguing
they didn't
option.
trust Noel last year. It seemed like he made plays when he was in, but I guess it's something that we don't see.
Yeah, it's no sense. Okay, Max Clare went. So should we trade now or should we wait for tight end for Roush?
Um, it could be now.
All right. I want him. Yeah, I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want 83 from the Panthers. We'll give you 106 and 141 ain't getting and 116.
I think
What do you think?
167 instead of 141 might go through. What about
Damn.
try to get 200 back maybe?
So let's do. Am I getting too crazy here?
I think if you do 116, 167, and maybe try to get no, and 106, and then try to get like 200 back or 159 back, there could be.
200. That's 68%. So that seems kind of fair.
Yeah.
All right, run it. Gonna get our boy Roush. Dude, this draft
Oh,
kicks ass.
you forgot to submit the trade.
Oh God,
That could have
Chandler
been bad.
Rivers. Well, this is where we originally planned on trading,
That is
so
true.
maybe we just inadvertently got some value out of this.
I don't think
Um,
Packers would go tight end either, so
Running another one. Yeah, you're right. So resume. I'm scared now. I'm freaking out. Should we roll the dice again or no?
I think here is a good spot.
Okay. Steelers, so 85 and 106, and then we'll give them, what should we do? 141.
Could you get 216 back? How much would that drop it?
47 offer trade. Hey, they took it.
Sweet.
All right. And we want that boy Roush. Okay, real quick, a peek ahead. Our next pick is going to be, so
116.
we'll probably need to trade up again potentially, right? So let's just look ahead before we get rolling. We're going to take Roush here, and our pick so far is Caden McDonald at 38, Zion Young at 46, Golday at 59, Rutledge at 69. Nice. Connor Liu at 77. And we're about to pick Roush at 85. So center, guard, backer, edge, defensive interior. Do
Think
we?
running back and maybe a wide receiver potentially?
Okay, let's take a look at running back here.
I think
Oh,
Claiborne.
Jonah Coleman,
Oh,
bro.
shoot.
Fuck out of here, dude. Sorry. Oh my god, we're gonna trade back up for Jonah Coleman. Sorry, I wanted to be collaborative, but now I'm just. Well, I mean, sorry. Finish your thoughts on running back.
I was saying I really like Damon Claiborne as a fit, just to be our home run hitter.
I do. So before we got David Montgomery, I liked his tape, but I was like, he's not really a fit. But now you throw him in there like to pair with Woody and Montgomery. That would be nice to have. And so I also don't know, like, having David Montgomery make Jonah Coleman less appealing because now he's more of the same. So that's tough.
It is insurance if one does get injured, though. So
That is true. And Montgomery's on a 2-year deal, which which could be a 1-year deal based off the guaranteed, right? I mean, we
yep,
could cut him or trade him next year if we needed to. All right, so I'm trying to see that, like the Eli Heidenreich guy is pretty cool as a late round
he
guy,
is cool. Yeah, play
but I
fullback and
mean
play running back, play wide receiver.
that could be our little Wes Welker right there. But really, left Seth McGowan's a freak, but he's not Swarm. He's like got previous felonies, right? I mean,
I think so.
um,
Yeah.
but really, the remaining fits, Jonah Coleman is a fit like Montgomery. Emmett Johnson, I don't know if you would consider him like that. I mean, he's pretty good as well, but he's not as big, 5'11", 200.
I really
So,
like him.
I mean, I would like the guys that I would take left: Jonah, Emmett, Singleton, Le'Veon. I guess Ott would be change of pace, but more of a premium than Damon. Katron Allen is, I think he's the better fit of the two, right? As far as downhill running scheme.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other position we wanted to look at was what? Receiver? So Ted Hurst is out there. Let's take off running back. I don't want Malachi Fields.
I really like the idea of Kevin Coleman in Houston.
I've been seeing him mock to us a little bit. So explain why you would like Kevin Coleman.
I think it's just if the team obviously I really like Jalen Noel, but if they view him as just a return man, then you could look to someone who's good in the slot. And I think he has the ability to go outside as well, just to be like a different profile there that we don't really have.
Yeah, he's kind of got like a compact build, 5'11", 180. I wasn't. He was at the Senior Bowl, I believe. I wasn't really keyed in on him because I was watching the trenches mostly.
Yep.
I think he was solid. I don't think he flash, but like from what I've watched of him, he's productive. He's solid. I mean, I don't know. Is he considered a security blanket?
He could be, yeah, he has really good hands.
Yeah. Okay. But I wouldn't want Jacoby Lane, Reggie Virgil, CJ Daniels, maybe.
He's fun.
CJ Daniels. I'm trying to think who else I would consider. Eric Rivers might be a fit. Uh, but, mm, hmm. Any other positions we should consider looking at
Uh,
before we proceed?
maybe if you want another D tackle, that could always be an option. Maybe like a Chris McClellan or something like that. Maybe corner, maybe safety.
Ooh, Kilgore they met with.
I really like Jalen Kilgore.
Okay.
It's my favorite. Him and Kyle Lewis are my favorite, like Swiss Army knives in the draft that can play multiple positions. I think Kilgore could play like nickel and something else,
And they
safety,
value
corner.
versatility there too. So I mean that would be depth in the secondary.
Yep.
All right. We'll target him. So let's Roush and then I think I'm gonna trade up for Coleman. I'm gonna do it before I might I might need to go before the Seahawks at 96.
Yeah,
So
that would be a good pick for them.
all right. So we got Roush. Let's let it roll a little bit. We'll be wrapping up here soon. I gotta get going. Gotta go coach some baseball today. All right.
It's not opening day, but opening day, kind of.
Oh yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, opening day, Houston Open, Sweet 16 tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Seahawks. Let's see if we can give you like some trash. Nope. So they don't want none of our. Should we trade something next year? What round are we in? I'm lost. We're in round 3 still. A fourth rounder next year.
Like
Let's.
216, maybe.
I'll throw that in 243.
Yeah, that works. Oh
Not
wow.
accepted. These pretentious. They really want to run him back. All right. We'll get my guy. Let's see, running back, Jonah Coleman. All right. And what's our next picks? 167.
Don't
I
really
mean,
have much to move around with.
yeah. So we'll stand pat and just let it run. We'll turn up the speed a little bit. Sorry, this is boring, guys. Normally, I'm reading the comments more, but I only have one screen with me right now. So, all right, they're flying off the board. Caleb Proctor could be a pick for the Texans, I think,
You could.
besides being FCS.
I like Deontay Lawson down the board too.
See, defensive tackle. I don't know who that is. Oh, Kilgore got taken there.
Linebacker,
Where's he from?
Alabama.
I should know that. All right. Portraiture is nice.
Kevin Coleman goes.
Tim Keenan is nice too. All right, so right here we would take a receiver or a corner potentially, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Josh Cameron,
I like Eric Rivers.
Eric Rivers. I like him too. He kind of stood out a little bit at the Senior Bowl to me.
Really?
Yeah, just like he seemed explosive. Tyron
He is very
Montgomery at
explosive.
214. We could get Tyron Montgomery to finish things off at the end. Cool.
If
I
you
don't
want
really.
to,
I'll be. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you want a screen guy, I think like Aaron Anderson or Barryon Brown from LSU could be potential screen guys.
That's true. Any of these corners, I don't really know the back end corners that well.
I like Thaddeus Dixon.
All right, let's take
Um,
him, and then we'll get a receiver next.
yeah, that works.
All right.
Go with Mr. Waltall to close it off or something.
Ooh, that'd be sick. Good call there, dude. Hype up my guy.
I think he
Yeah,
should get
he.
drafted.
So he lit it up in 2024, and Zach Calzado was the quarterback,
Yeah.
and then 2025. Pat Coogan went in the 6th round, bro. Did I just see? Let me see. Did someone just get Montgomery? Yeah, Chargers. Anyhow, but they kind of had it up and down year this year. First year, my buddy was calling plays. But yeah, he's a stud, dude. Like I think he's a 5th round talent.
Doesn't seem like he's going either.
So we're set on receiver here, right?
I think so, yeah.
Any of these guys?
Dylan
Squirrel
Bell's
White,
fast. Same with Squirrel White if you want speed.
Jordan
Um,
Hudson. They're getting a lot of.
yeah, I saw he had like a dinner with the Cowboys or something.
Oh, Barry and Brown's way down there. Screw it. We're getting below Walt.
Why not?
All right. Let's see. I gotta show us the final. Analyze it. A plus. That's probably bad then, right? Let me download that. We'll post it later, but let's see if I can screenshot it too. But yeah, just to review, we traded back out of the 1st round and we got Caden McDonald. I was kind of stickling on if he'd fit or not, but I mean, if he's there at 38, he's a game changer. You get him.
Yep.
And then 2nd round at 46, Zion Young got an edge. And then we got Jake Golday at linebacker with 59, Keelan Rutledge at 69, Connor Liu at 77. Traded up to get Sam Roush with the Steelers at 85. Traded up to get Jonah Coleman with the Seahawks at 96. Thaddeus Dixon, a depth corner. And then my guy, Jalen Waltall. So, yeah, that was dope, dude. Anything else? You got any other comments? Anything we might have missed there? Or?
Not really. I really like the way that draft went, actually.
Okay. Well, yeah, appreciate you guys in the chat. CJ Swift, Rishi, Dime, what's going on, Dime? Space, Rich Boy J, Henry Jack. Sorry I didn't get to the comments. I might try and go live again later in the week. This was just an impromptu one, but yeah, if you guys got anything, just let us know. And yeah, that was fun. And be on the lookout on the website too. We'll get new features as well. But yeah, any parting words, Andrew?
Just thank you for having me, man. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So if y'all don't follow Andrew, Texans_takeover on X, and it's Texans Takeover on YouTube. He does a lot of good mock drafts. Very smart, I want to say kid because you're in college, but smart guy. Very sharp guy. Y'all should check out his content. He knows what he's talking about. So until next time, we will see y'all later, guys. We bless him.